Hello, America, New York City, Connecticut. Overtly slash insidiously leading up to the World Trade Center attack. In that context and sense, there are names that have been planting evidence as saying things, been influenced to act so others can take pictures, where and how consciously time is being and having been used for a whole bunch of predicate acts methods simultaneously, too fast, too slow, to get over on humanity in that trap that New York City is, the suburbs, let alone the cities of across the globe. We're in a simulation trap. The colonies, individually grouped and together, they were used remotely. Right through our schools, they're blaming other things, others, ourselves, for what measured and maintained by a breaching method. Effectively, it keeps those with the most knowledge about things like American history, using it to self-value, to measure and get over on what's true always. Everyone already knows. See, but they don't have everyone knowing this because everyone's supposed to know about how our founders had to counter extort the other founders. Was supposed to interpret their language, knowing that they had to entertain positive and negative treatments and identity treatment simultaneously, criminally foreign influence against themselves, forced roles. Therefore, I went against everyone, forced roles. And if anyone sensed people outside that, that was the law. Make sure that person's hurt. So this is with what they call corrections. The corrections people have been with their patients and criminals. Their whole method. They have methods of pretending passions, emotions tied to what people say online. For over a decade, they have roles by making fake, with names, making fake pages, pretending to be me. Oh, you don't know who it is, though. I know who it is. It's right on the right the New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page has rape threats involved with this. Such like that, other passion crimes, forced roles with the principal child abuser. More people involved with abuses of the upskirt nature, picture of the kids. How they have the women judges role self-value with this is where relative to where and how investigators, all vetting identities are being and haven't been used criminally for an influence with the prisons. It's not by accident. Time the prisons leading up to that, the people with the military associated with that, whole bunch of ties to the spots next to downtown Hartford with investigators criminally for influence all as a kid. I don't know Chet Casper. I never saw him around campus in my life. They try to make a fake exception, maybe see him out of the corner of the eye. He's involved with wire crime acts, this method and nature of identity theft, fraud, slander against him too, by Tim O'Brien, and Andrew O'Brien and their family and extended family. I found out too. These are people associated with Sandy Hook. And there was people with the forensics location, Whiting Forensics, had roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, also with a whole bunch of people tied to Enzo Fienza and his cousin. I forgot his cousin's names. They repeated confessions regarding all these confessions. The only time I knew them. And they tried to make a fake exception near the spots near Fox CT, also involved with like Mendez Police and people with the name Domain, involved also with a whole bunch of names at New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts leading up to the World Trade Center attack, and since they had roles with federal rules of evidence as crimes at locations, criminally foreign influence ones, and roles at the interbranch locations and at the campuses. And all exceptions that appear not related have relevant roles. And that's how they've been getting away with this. Not just against me, not against everyone. It's how they keep everyone leaving the significance out of the course of black pupils and whites of eyes. And why and how we have the exception nature of different eyes. We have the exact same eyes and different eyes at the same time to answer our questions. We have nature here, nature's identity. That which is really true always, not in the slightest exception. not valuing the slightest, exception denied, or having been, or going to be denied by tricks or by nature. Oh, they therefore, exception nature denied. In other words, one identity that is all things at once, we even know we're only a little bit of it. Its complete identity relationship to itself is only gaining in value too distinctly from itself, though, and simultaneously, / hyper simultaneously. And that is apart from the value of it, which is the same way gaining. So there was an Eric Klotz who moved into my I apologize, Klotz family, before you guys moved here from New York City, for Eric, when I was in 6th grade. A mayor's daughter pretended to know me with passions and emotions to make a fake exception, pretending to know me. Like a year before that, I had one instance I knew her. Before that, and it was only a short instance where played with Dre on the ground. It was fun. So she ran up to me like that. I found out later more and more things tied to this. And I don't know what she said to my teacher, and I used a stamp to forge my father's name to make it look like she made me give her a letter. I don't know what she said. A crazy thing. I don't want to get in trouble for it. And I had the thing. And I don't want to be rude to a girl. It's one thing they're doing is there are methods of fact, human nature-oriented predicate acts, criminally foreign influence, tricks to bring things before courts that are never going to have, that still are not yet, have not, quote, at last, unquote, to quote Martin Luther King. We are not free at last. All exceptions, the ability to compare ourselves, you can't do that properly without realizing how the Native Americans, with our founders who had to extort the other founders, and all three, made the phenomenon of the ability to make a country out of nowhere. But still, they had to entertain what you can't entertain and be free. You can't have a slave and not be a slave. It takes everything you have as an individual when you contemplate what is serious, what is eternal. That is now. That is value the way it is to come here now too. And it is value which has already been. To an extent, this is discernible. But what we can discern always is true, is being what they call debated by people that are offensively only going to debate if you leave out the debate the environment. Environment is inside. If you want to speak about what causes extinction, what cause those living things to be revealed better than invention anyway, in the first place. Now we're speaking about nature. Environment is a little variable inside nature that is greater than it and is more finite than the environment, while as its value system. It is greater than the force, while not as force, while as the force. Boxings, I teach us things but law. So there were reports of the corner of Carriage Hill Drive and of Fairlane Drive being involved in a recent break-in, and with it having been Asian themed. God bless you, Asian people. And there is an Asian family that lives there. But these did, in other words, and the Klotz family have ties to the year before they moved in. I don't think I've ever seen him in the presence of a Joe DeMora, Joe DeMar was planting evidences in them ones to hide it, but also with judges and prosecutors, people involved with Koreans, with Taekwondo places in different spots through time. There's a guy who knows my name who I don't know. There and the students of his class are involved with people from a whole bunch of different countries. On off Trinity College, on off Central Connecticut State University, who've been planting evidences, including a fake letter, fake emails, also with the WTNH. Please fix the fake emails and help me. They have wire crime acts and methods where they fabricate and replace audio and video transcripts with fake ones, and they make up complete fake conversations and ties between people, even kids and their family members, and fake conversations about details in legal cases because they record illusions and say things and pretend passions, emotions at locations per a method where and how used remotely are people A through Z and the branches of government, exceptions tied to them, or they attach that person to change words, fake words, and with people around them per a method where relevant uses of all locations. There is complete possession over the syntax nature of humanity, relevant to what really caused slavery. A human fact, cheating nature, breaching method, a hyper predicate acts delivery system method. I am not a lawyer. Here, 12 break. The lawyers and the judges will get our back. Let's all protect. See, we have to do this, with the means we have tied to this, because these are names involved with the World Trade Center attack and more leaders of the kids, where they're keeping in the background. There are people. There was a guy named Mr. O'Connor. I never had a personal conversation with my life. I asked my father to have a personal conversation with him. Per what I would have caught them if they followed the rules. I caught them anyway. But I also caught them hiding this. What I caught them doing intercampuses consciously. And these are people involved with class placements then and now, sickly, distinctly. Since before everyone was born. Vaccines. So these are people involved with overt criminal enterprises, plural, who are involved with time uses of those campuses through time and how they affected little boys and girls to make confessions when I will come through a door regarding the men and women from Central Connecticut State University and involved with mayors, involved with kids, and with the FBI and other agencies in Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron. There's a John Lyon who said a Jessica Cintron is one of the ones involved, as his roles confirming demonstrated recording, roles with sequence shifts, and other federal evidences, crimes, child abuse, nature of identity theft, fraud, slanders, also consciously as federal evidences, crimes, and motivations of it, where and how the courts had roles with him. The Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, on and off campuses, and other locations have been planting evidences, and all kinds of ways, all kinds of motives known. This is interstates. These are certain type of victim predator that people A through Z, overt criminal enterprises, private ones. This is what our founders left us to demonstrate. Styles of logic incapable of defending themselves and of affording defenses of the Constitution unabridged and definitions of all appearances of justice, meaning don't leave out the smallest finite detail. Don't be that nature of the law that's used in the hallways of the courts as traps. They have a kid making comments about a black female judge. God bless her. In the Britain Superior Court. And then there's an old Italian lady looking like that at me. And these are the people involved with the Korean people. They have the how we have roles with Afghanistan. They have how we have military families that know my name through others, and I know their name through others when I walk through the cafeteria relative to how they do this. And they're lying about their motivations of that. whole bunch of people tied to a Christopher Cullen, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with various natures of courts, judges, and prosecutors, involved with where and how it is observable with the executive branch and the judicial branch have predicate acts methods individually that are distinct and also grouped, where and how also they have these used and having been used to hide that, also per their roles with the prisons, the people involved with the shipping locations, the people involved with with apparent motivations, where and how relevant the breaching method implied the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, such as itself, for example, the breaching method itself blamed on other things, others, and or on themselves, exactly the way it needed, even when correctly. So it's not wealth; it's the nature of wealth. It's not just the nature of wealth; it's collusion /S with all criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments, and those are increasingly identity treatments. And identity works this way to discern, as our programming is, will please learn. Vaccines. So in other words, there were reports on a link I put in below. You can see it, and there's a button. It says more information below YouTube videos. You can also press on the name of a YouTube channel and be brought to that YouTube channel's page. And you can see the playlist. You can see the videos. You can see the live streams. Vaccines to teach us things, prepare our souls. So, in other words, World Trade Center, fake conversations with me about the World Trade Center were had. 3 times they brought me to Hartford Hospital, 2 times totally making things up to cover up what I caught them doing and was asking for a response for. After I forced people to call the police without knowing why. Because I gave my mother 3 months to grieve after my father died, leading up to his death in that context and since. I didn't know it all at the time. I couldn't explain it like this then. But I had already been, before the World Trade Center attack, people associated with New Britain Superior Court and Hartford Court had effected confessions to me, requests for help. Now, that location had also been already brought up for a request from help. I mean, not for a request for help, but for requests from people who were confessed, demonstrated before they had been influenced by others to federal rules of evidence and crimes in ways they didn't like, that were criminally foreign influenced. But some ways they did like it. And it was not their motivations, but some ways it was their motivations. That's why you don't leave these games with the campuses. So if this Adam Klotz is related to the Klotz family or not, there was also a Kathy Tansey, who's one of the ones involved with a Smith girl. Jennifer Smith, they said her name is. I never had a conversation with her in my life. And I wasn't drunk at her house. These are people trying to plant evidences with a whole bunch of disgusting things with people I never had a class with, I never even saw around the middle school. Tried to make a fake exception. Also with the Chet Casper and with the Eric Mendez. And with the intelligence community, the influence of Potter family and families on off the state judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it, all along Route 3 in conjunctions to it, influence to roles with relevant natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders, also connected to continually to confessions and demonstrations regarding roles with mayors, other natures of, even all the way up to, I know how they're in this, this is all victim predators, other countries, they're fake identity though. It's fluent through our nation. Something to do, you know, you don't want me to let it explain too much. Because then it's easier for everyone to change the words. So they've been fabricating, changing tapes, attaching me to fake conversations, making fake exceptions. You know how they do this, for example? How sickly, overtly / insidiously. The first time, just for like 3 days, 3.5 days, because it was one of the. And then the night comes and they push you in this thing for a mental evaluation. Okay. And I saw right up front the patients. There are proofs it was a patient that was one of the people involved with. They have acting coaches. They're demonstrating that their roles with keeping presences with the streets. No, simultaneously as identities of law. But they can't. I defend that and ourselves at the same time. These are criminally foreign influence uses of logic that are also tactically delusions wrought. Where how everyone it has one. They have police forms with badges who have roles with the judges from their positions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. We can't leave all that out because they're getting involved with our conversations consciously to keep us going to before in interbranch locations, increasingly valuing already. They've been stacking fake things into their database. Variably, too. You know. And so they're not. There are proofs that the narratives regarding leaking between the presidents is to hide the other leaking. They're demonstrating their criminally foreign influence, uses of other people's. I don't know this Daryl Chandler. I don't even know his sister's name. These are people involved with a whole bunch of people tied to the names involved with the Wethersfield police and uses of the kids, now adults around me. So, and then there are kids. Everyone's using fake conversations in the past, and now it became relevant, increasingly relevant. You have families fighting with each other through time. Sometimes that's fake, even if it's all fake. They've been forging, switching names, preventing me writing and into branch while they've been stacking more fake things into databases. There's a Joshua Julian I don't know at all. Eric Klotz was made to repeat his name to me in front of me when Paul Zana was in front of me for brief moments before. I never had a conversation with him. Try to make it look like that. I mean, a verbal conversation with him. Try to make it look like that, even by having me go one time with them all the way to Central Connecticut State University one time, and another time to Johnson and Wales in Rhode Island. They have rules interstates with state police forms, FBI, other agencies on off Middlesex Community College. Their family members involved with former director of the FBI and his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski on off Fox Connecticut News, locations next to it, with a whole bunch of names on off Central Connecticut State University and elementary schools, involved with the medical community and the military community, medical too, involved sick with other countries, including the countries they want to go to war with other people. The other, with a whole bunch of big fakes. It takes nothing to go to war where we are fact sheet in nature. That's weak. And so they rest on what, the people who just blind sacrifice themselves. And they force, this is how they have the forced possession over the positive and negative treatments vocally, syntactically, of presidents / chiefs, because they're individuals, sickly distinctly from ourselves. And simultaneously. And so, we better get this done because everyone, Every individual voice is being forced to present other individual voices. And when that's not true, the other one is preventing the other one. And only left to right. Only when all the little individuals coordinate, not just with the individual leaders, but with the one identity of hyper simultaneous, that will only stay one, even though it is making more of itself. And how it is making more of itself? By simultaneously being more and more plural volumes of itself. And science demonstrates that we're supposed to describe the heartbeat of Allah as that which is demonstrated by nature to be written regarding what the first part of the Old Testament tells us to write about where the sciences come together and show us the identity of relativity and how to read it. Ancient snow people. Ooh, no one's here. Please heave. See, I'll perceive. So there's a Fred Grisey also involved with networks, and networks have roles with police forms, and they confess and demonstrate this while they pretend other. That's one of the roles with extortion. That extortion method that is no one wanted roles with, but exceptions were made. No one wanted roles with slavery. No against anyone. Let alone the people hurt most of it. They don't want it against our founders either, but that's what it is. Sickly, distinctly against every individual voice. And this is sustained against Native Americans, which enabled our founders the phenomenon of the means to be able to semi-counter extort the other founders and not have that method completely wipe them out and figure out who they were right away. Even though they showed who they were, they weren't showing how they were being forced to get said. Marbury versus Madison. Yet real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. And the Constitution should get unabridged. That doesn't mean to counter that method and identity of criminal insidiousness that was generating and is generating those criminal insidiousness of positive and negative identity treatments, subject treatment natures at all locations. That most is what is furthering the problems with fentanyl, where they use words like drugs and they combine that subject. We know they have been long sick, put human in prison for having where they make distinctions. Those prisons have crimes with their patients, have predicate acts with their patients and criminals since before they were caught. It's one thing to have standards to make sure people are educated before they could do something. It's another thing to have it because they're educated, let them get away with tricks with time treatments and interbranch where they would never get away that they followed the law. Down to the thing, they don't do it. They already were backed into that. They knew that they would have to hide this in the future. Those involved with recorded, conscious, effective, remote criminally foreign influence uses of the fact, human nature, styles, qualities of logic, all private tied to it, all exceptions tied to it. The prisons are as it, the post offices are as the branch of government, but other ways. There are platforms where they have the branches of government individually grouped together. Already can't defend themselves and afford short words that use exception nature, the way the hyper simultaneous does. It is one identity of volume except for where and how it is multiple identities of volume making more of itself, per what science actually demonstrates, per what actually English had been revealed to teach, and how is, in other words. So they try to make a fake exception of me knowing Eric Klotz, and these are also people further then and now further involved with wire crimes with the principal child offender, and there are more doctors involved with medical crimes, a whole men in the family, a whole bunch of men in their family, and a whole bunch of women in their family, and men, and with the same names, and criminally foreign uses of name switching, sharing names, all that, because they exploit at other locations. I had no conversations at all with the Brendan Leahy. And then they have roles with rape threats on Facebook with a Judge Killian and some judges involved also with this Leahy family. 2 other times they forced me to Hartford Hospital by making things up. And so then you call the police and they say, "Oh, we thought it was because he was yelling again." Before I was yelling, I tried other ways since before the World Trade Center attack. They keep intercity stacking fake things and more names and roles. Then they say, "Oh, that person says everyone's guilty." They have all kinds of doctors, a whole bunch of different natures and methods of predicate acts, roles, and motivations, narratives, roles. Those motivations are also recorded involved as their roles with the World Trade Center for their motivations with it, because that was being and is being used remotely. They have all kinds of ways of getting around with this, getting away with this, because we cannot counter it without countering the court's roles. We cannot counter that properly unless we know how everyone A through Z stays roles as victim, predator / hyper victim, hyper predator, where how effectively, otherwise they attach that person to change words, everyone around them to change words. And this is where everything's being and having been sustained, incapable in the defenses of all formal defenses of what they call stability, safety treatments, freedom treatments, constitution treatments, exceptions treatments. Nature uses exceptions distinctly from anyone. So we can discern where and how they plan fake exceptions at locations. That's one of the things witch trials is about. Even if they're made up, that's one thing slavery is about. These are courts, these are interbranch forged. If they try to entertain proper responses to things when they had to respond to instances, they would be measured by the breaching method. And they will be heard for that. So it's not to ignore their role, because then you're not paying attention to what the branch of government is about. You're not paying attention to that Trinity, that nature showing us it's about. That's why the nature of the nucleus, the identity of relationship to itself as the nucleus, the identity of the relationship to itself as the cell body, the identity of the relationship to itself as the cell wall, that one identity has as 3 distinct identities of relationship to itself, and 2 further perceivable where and how in reception of the gases and of water and its elements, and the elements of earth. So, please, WFSB has people involved with Roger Suzanne, who attached me and others to fake words. He has roles with people on the Child Defender Registry and with a whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court and with Hartford courts and with Middletown locations through time who've been attaching little kids to fake ties to doctors into databases. No one's paying attention. And it's been affecting where and how they have criminally foreign influence uses of police and motivations. How that could be motivated is also recorded relative to how they call things into the police after they confess, demonstrate, record roles with overt criminal enterprises with middle school kids, identity theft, fraud, slander, trying timing where people are going to go when they have kids that are already connected, sexually, medically, just to make it, just so they can plant more fake things in databases, where how they're exploiting the illusions, where they have the roles of predicate acts already criminally foreign influence when they're kids. In other words, there was no intelligence community. Look at the suburbs are from since before our founding parents. Parents were born. Cars weren't even around, let alone cranes, all that. What do we build? Into a pond. That is New York City, where they knew they could ferret out who was really behind America's founding by forcing them only capable of doing damage control to where and how what is being built as cities is tactically. The suburbs were designed tactically denatured. They already had sustained this. It was still ongoing, but they already sustained it against Native Americans so long they were fighting themselves. No one can remember our history but one way. In many prayer boxings, the public's course is deep, more vast than the breaches. Saying, before the foundation of modern nations, the breaching method was cast more vast and yes, more deep. Thank God for Legion's name, first being its, having been its, other than could be fathomed by ye now who hear its name. Evolution's course, it only feels like game/S. Who trains the species body long these games, boxings. So the Wethersfield police have been switching and forging names for years, and they have roles of wire crimes with this. And I'm not sure if it's they say they have, if it's them, they confirmed it was, they have a police officer that called me from the Wethersfield town offices. Now that officer said that it was an Officer Sullivan, but then they said it was a female and this sounded like a male. And before this already, it's ongoing. They have a whole bunch of other police reports where they switched names with Officer McGee. There's females, there's people with male and female with the intelligence community who have badges, who have roles with, even Social Security, Medicaid, even the Department of Children and Family, the prisons, the campuses that train the people that run the prisons, the state police, like Central Connecticut State University, people that are training the educators of the campuses, their family members, in the furtherances of illusions where predicate acts methods are relevant, where and how the identities of the campus's departments individually grouped and together are also being and having been communicated by themselves, involved with the names forging and switching, and confessions relevant. Hear their voices, souls. These are also people on off Quinnipiac University, involved with a Harris family. I never had a conversation with in my life. They try to make fake picture of me knowing him. They have roles with identity theft, frauds, also as predicate acts roles and various natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders, instances, and with data and intelligence community and foreign associated with Quinnipiac University. These are also people through time on off campuses I went to from the youngest age, and their family members, people that lead the school, some of the kids that's also differentially exploited, where how they keep, effectively self-value rolls with all positive, all words we need to have, like first responders, things that they know that presidents have to stand up for, or no constituency is going to back them. That's a certain type of victim predator where we have caseloads. Those are locations used. All locations were used by this programming method since before computers that criminally re-engineered the republic this way. In many pray. It is recorded when people bring up or respond to, or ignore a response to, when they bring up what caused slavery and our founders' roles with it, and research that our founders left us to demonstrate. You don't bring that up without bringing up the how they had to counter-extort with the other founders, how everyone had to hide what they felt, and how they had to entertain and speak and act what they wouldn't, and that we can't be defended and us defended at the same time, where and how it counts. So we have no defenses, and where they have to force people to fight in Russia, in Ukraine, and in America, in our countries, because they don't have. Look at the suburbs are tactically denatured. You guys are out of your minds. Well, we could do it. Make more energy and save more energy. Dropping water, moving around, making life in it than it takes to lift the water. Now we know the whole earth. It's demonstrable. The whole earth was tactically denatured. Because until we're doing this as a species body, we have to liberate that species body first. We don't have the other enemies like dinosaurs and all the wild to bond us as we had originally been, more probably. Feel, discern, and ye train, ye speak religion. Yeah, please learn. Boxing is all at once while turn and turn. I need to get a boxing license. Anthony Wall, Connecticut boxing. If I was an independent fighter. No one will speak online because everyone's being coached to Aside syndrome roles. There were civil cases and there were depositions between kids and criminal cases with kids when I was a kid that were used to lock even lawyers planting evidences where consciously, effectively, all time treatments are used at interbranch locations individually grouped and together. Time is used simultaneously too fast, too slow to give around forever nature, which is one of the things your identity is. It is a forever nature. Not just as the identities that came before you as your family, species, body. Please learn. The identity of the simultaneous. It is itself unto itself. Do you not want the most finite part of your body as a distinct sequence / simultaneous nature? Do you want what's positive to itself distinctly to be simultaneously not distinctly positive to you? and to others. Because if you don't want it to others, then you don't want it to everything. See, these exceptions and exceptions measures to make people want and need to fight. You have to go all the way back to the root of it. You have to use as evidence how they left out the significance of criminally foreign influence database locations and exploitation of at other locations as a singular method role that everyone had as roles through other methods, other motivations, other natures, needs, interests. Increasingly to blame the real causes of negative value, nature progressions, acts, and natures on other things others themselves. So Wethersfield police made confessions artistically about, so you don't know their name and then they run away. The Wethersfield police chief, Cintron. There's also I don't know if they're going to go arrest them or what. They weren't clear about that. I just don't, there were so many of them. A whole bunch of Wethersfield police, they have crime methods where they have people call up the police too criminally. And with exceptions, they do criminally too. There's Anthony Agnew. There's proof that the night she called was the same night, one of the same nights there was people associated with the corner of Town Line Drive and Southstein Highway, involved with the businesses and the police forms and the courts with investigations, investigators, and vetting identities who are involved with predicate acts in those locations relative as their roles with predicate acts at other campuses that are fact-keeping nature oriented and that are wire crimes methods oriented and that are intercampuses consciously. So these are the names. Also with Central Connecticut State University and the child campuses and the policing of the campuses further. So Joe DeMorrow said that the Klotz's family and Heather Hansen was one of the ones involved with them at that corner too, tied to breaking into my house or breaking the window. I don't know if they came in. I put the camera, so I got tricked too by the same people who there was a trick that were in other words. But I wouldn't take it back. I was so glad I had met a beautiful girl when I was young. And they also, with the agencies and judges, lied to her, have roles with it, and with the people that are involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. That's only, in other words. That's why I never had anything to do with them. They try to make a fake exception and pretend. I don't know Tony tomorrow. He said, "You want to go on a date with the girl?" With the exceptions, because he was going on a double date, and so I went, and then we had nothing to do with them. And that had something to do with their roles with East Hartford locations. And I don't know if Central Connecticut State University evolved also all along Route 3 with police forms in intercities who recorded. So they have people that come up to you in life, like a Debbie Gold yelling, pretending passions and emotions from behind me. And then won't stop calling me names. Then you start yelling. You call your name back or whatever. You're a little kid. You don't know. You're in second grade or third grade. It was third grade. And then makes it look like they're lying about what came first. And they're lying about your nature of the relationship to the people around you. And they're lying and hiding exceptions regarding their opinions of you. This is where people that are I got reality television. They're not really honestly being honest about people when they speak at locations or on television yet. Because they're not going to have that quality of fact-keeping nature. Where and how they know that sequence shifts are illusions. And they show different natures of relation, different motivations that people have than are real. Post-dated documents had been post-dated from inside the Ninth Circuit Court. Wethersfield police recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed also with other police forms. They have people with the name Scalora involved with federal crimes on off campuses in Hartford and Wethersfield and in New Britain, and with people on the child offender registry involved even with medical, sexual, even doctors involved with medical and sexual crimes with their patients and criminals, and against little kids and their families, attaching them to fake conversations about various natures of federal crimes they personally have roles further with worse than the overt criminal enterprises and the forced patients and criminals they have. And God bless, God say for, anyone who goes to them legitimately. You get them on paper. Hartford Hospital, a whole bunch of people with a Violet family sought me out when I was in a couple times when I was in middle school. One time they sought me out in my neighborhood, and they made a confession in demonstration, not with my neighbor. That's how I knew they had roles together before that. Has something to do with the people on off Trinity College have been planting with the FBI, identity theft, fraud, slanders instances, hiding behind. They have a whole bunch of countries like Afghanistan involved with them here. People with Korea involved with them. They don't have so get them onto paper and have them say sorry to the judges, or get them on paper with the judges. Let's get them on paper. Because they've attached me and others to fake conversations about the World Trade Center, a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime, and the little quick articles and the fake news media. Then they take it down, obfuscate it. It hurts some ways a lot when they put it up, not emotionally. Then they pretend you're speaking about your emotions. But of course it's going to hurt emotionally too, because your emotions are in demonstration about the simultaneous. Everyone wants to keep emotions about other than the sound, what's actually sequence true. So they have little plots at every spot because they have remote criminally foreign influence uses of evidences, treatments being brought to courts to leave out and paint all these fake exception nature to keep worse than obfuscated. How nature uses exception nature hyper additionally than any that we could make up. As three identities of possession over while as the value of anything we could invent, reveal, or even make up. Vaccines is more finite than some parts of everything, and so all things. Well, not. And while greater than they could ever be, even together. Vaccine. So cold, hot. Not just to gain the warmth. Vaccines. So we have caseloads, people that answer phones. Oh, we don't have time for that. They're psychopaths. That's the problem. Oh, the reason we have it is this, and it's a political. That's where those political issues, where they're motivated to be knaves and self-value that people A through Z, and or they attach us to fake words, changed words, and with everyone around us. That's what's recorded. The problem. So Fox News, please. Tucker Carlson, please call the campus with me. Let's get them on the campus. Because they attach me to fake behavior too. They've been doing this. They attach people to fake being a pushover and fake being aggressive. And that's how I caught them. With this Dillon family too. And his partner, a guy who said he was his partner and said his parents lived right there somewhere at that corner. I think across the street from that, from the people whose house was reportedly broken into at the corner of Fairlane Drive in Carriage Hill, in the corner of Fairlane Drive and Griswold Street, also with a whole bunch of confessions and other demonstrations of people who have had wrote my name used with them, also by the news media, and relative to when I had to yell for everyone to hear me in the neighborhood until I got someone to call the police without telling them why, because of the relativity of it. I understood them, their tactics, their uses of predicate acts methods from since before the World Trade Center attack. And I'm not the only one who understands this and who can. Little kids are going to understand this. So you're going to get them on paper, and you're going to get a response for the ones. There are people with a whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court that said things that they're pretending while they already know that they communicated other that they know to an extent is true. Where, or at least that it's plausible that it's true. For example, with some of them, they're all victims of victim predators, like Christine Bedard, please, or whatever your name is. God bless. You're a good girl. See, but where they have the side syndrome, and where they had your quality of fact, human nature, preventing me rights while stealing my rights, with people involved leading up to the World Trade Center in that context and since, involved with predicate acts with the Britain Superior Court and with the other courts at other locations. Before these instances that brought me before you, Covington Street already had roles with a whole bunch of people at a whole bunch of different instances, locations that had been roles with predicate acts with kids from Wethersfield and their family members. And also, when that's not true, it was from off that little location. This is how they're keeping increasingly better than perfectly a whole bunch of victim predators and giving the excuses, and how they're keeping the little kids of overt criminal enterprises and of the interbranch needing to be insidious against others at the same time together. This is effectively what the fentanyl is used for. Complete remote possession. There are a whole bunch of people with Sandy Hook involved with on and off the state judicial branch offices and their treatments of those issues with the news media, also involved fabricating more, first further with the principal child defenders campus, then and at the time through their roles with other fact human nature oriented predicate acts. Get down, fake branches, fair. There is found seed. Someone please tell Judge Napolitano. So this is like a identity theft, fraud, slander. They lie about everyone before others perceive them. At each age of fact, human nature, sickly distinctly. This is between campuses method, even private. And there's a Joshua Schumacher and his mother also, who have been roles with federal evidence as crimes per people tied to them, also with KKK and black themed military police and on-off private campuses all along the route from Wethersfield to Central Connecticut State University, on-off Paul Manafort Drive. Also, as CNN sources leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since criminally foreign influence, they're hiding behind their roles with apparently training of police forms that might apparently or something like that. There was all kinds of corruption with the interbranch and overt criminal enterprises that have timed on-off campuses roles with the class placements too, on-off campuses, illusions, time, use of identity, the ground location, years later, uses of the same corners and phenomena and names, where they're forcing people to use other people's names so they can pretend it's person. Oh, this is your motivation. Oh, you're this, you're that. You know what I'm saying? Get them on paper. Get them on paper. Let's get this Dillon family. There are a whole bunch of people involved with the Anna Dillon with the real estate too now, involved with this Kelvin Dillon and his demonstration on my street involved, and people involved. I don't know their names, but they know their names. There are people involved with their doctors and with various natures of federal crimes on all sides of my house. And with their patients too are involved with them with crimes. Some of them may be police forms, but they're the names I don't know the names of, but we can get their names. They're also involved on off where the library is, where the police station used to be, and where the police station is now. As these people involved with threats, credible threats and violence, even crimes with child offender leaders of the kids, even medical and sexual recorded, and not all of it proven yet. But there are more with the principal with the upskirt pictures on Twitter yet, further in the area involved with it, and their neighbors of Ian up the street, one of the people involved, also with other uses of the name Ian involved. Yeah. So let's get them on paper now, real fast. And let's get a response for the campus. They're also pretending they want privacy and using that as a truth to be used as a lie. They're being coached for that by the police forms involved. They have with the girls and that also are now mothers that had people pretend I knew them, like a Della Farah family associated with years later. Only time I tried to contact him, years later, he made confessions over the phone. The father of some Demora brothers, the father of some Della Farah brothers, which is one of the brothers involved with other brothers involved with other. They had the same girlfriends. Who also involved the intelligence community involves their girlfriends with identity theft, fraud, slanders against strangers. Then they pretend we know them when they make fake exceptions. Now these are the people with people I don't know at all involved with them that pretend that too. And then some of them I just stand in there and never had a word of conversation with them, like people on off Knott Street associated with the Spada family. That was also brought up by the Close, brought up also by the Wethersfield police, switching and forging names, wire crimes at Wethersfield Pizza, a whole bunch of confessions. Those are people made about them in the past. They're involved with the wire crimes with Stephen Stocko that are ongoing as one of the roles of Wethersfield Pizza they have with the Wethersfield police, with the confessions tied to the Claw and the name switching, and with the name Sullivan. Who knows an Officer Sullivan from Wethersfield? And Tucker Carlson, please help. These are people on off Trinity College planting fake emails, fake letter, fake communications ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, speaking fake things on Facebook to hide that. Also, their roles with mayors and other natures of other and levels of politicians on off the locations and their family members, effective uses of the family members of more. There are reportedly two principals, a mother and a daughter that are both principals, and there are reportedly tied to a Mr. O'Connor, who's one of the ones involved with New York, also with the Klotz family that came in when I was in sixth grade. And there was a guy who was not my teacher, Mr. Bernstein. But they made a fake exception with the they made us go in there a couple of times. It was other sixth grade class. They had roles with various natures of relative uses of chemical type things and in the form of with people in the pattern with the people with the pattern of that, not with the chemicals, but with a fungus and racketeering with people's names and motivations, use of their kids. All exception nature and demonstration of the same thing. Before I hit his older son, who was older than me, with the stick, after he approached me with the stick. And this had already been going on. And the mayor's daughter had already demonstrated roles with the two O'Brien brothers and their family with criminally foreign influence with Hartford police, involved with executive police families, and the promotion of one of them that required his roles with them communicating to me that they were criminally foreign influence and going to pretend other. Now that's what people do relative to where and to how the cause of slavery was blamed on other things, others ourselves. Because whoever tries honestly to explain this, that person is sensed and hurt by people not just dishonest, but needing to keep the motivations for it, pretending to be other, appearing to be other. They're not really. So we're going to go into this, the whole map. We're going to map them out, and we're going to write your names because you got forcing everyone to speak through others. You have little fake cowards. Please get them on paper. The people who spoke with you, little women who were little girls at schools I went to. Get those little punks on paper, little fakes. Watch how fake the interbranch were with it too. Because I know it's not you guys. It's just what makes it is these people playing the games with the phones and with the names that were pretending to know me behind my back at my campuses, and they're trying to make fake exceptions. That's what's happening, and it's relevant. So we're gonna how the programming of the mind really works. So we're going to demonstrate their physical delusions, their nature delusions, and their identity delusions. I'm not a doctor, but they had fake conversations with me. That's one of the ways we're going to approach their souls. And this is what you're going to see when we get there. Here! Make sure, I don't have to keep begging you for a response. Make sure, get one name in sequence. They force people to speak through others relative to how they already did that with the news, too, to lie about the outcomes of cases that actually was the real outcomes that were, because they have that rules with predicate acts in legal cases, but also from their own with broadcasts where the right to lie is used where they don't have the right to lie. Central Connecticut State University has the roles with the news media, with press conferences, relevant where and how the intelligence community has been using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie at interbranch locations, on and off campuses, and increasingly not just all corruption, but all that right back to all locations with that original method, with that original collusion that builds upon where everyone built at each age, sickly, distinctly, self-values, being and having been blamed on other things, others ourselves, the real causes of negative value, nature, progression, acts, and natures. That's what you're talking about when you say what caused slavery. Consciously, it employed the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures simultaneously to be blamed on other things, others, and or on selves. And to make that true, and to hold the exceptions in the exception nature, both used for lies, consciously, to propagate, self-cultivate, which could no longer afford short words, let alone the protraction of the short words, using truth, that is truth always, not denying the slightest exceptions, and as a nature, completely properly valuing the only increasing value of that simultaneously, hyper simultaneously. Here, the means appear this way along, like things. I teach you things belong. So talk to Carlson. Please. There's a Joshua Stryker, a whole bunch of judges and prosecutors as the people involved with overt criminal enterprises, uses of corners of buildings and streets, and relative identity thefts and frauds, and uses of shipping locations associated with Joshua Stryker. Also as one of the ones involved at Trinity College with timed uses of that for predicate acts roles with the with child campuses, and with Joshua Julian, people involved with whiting forensics, and the state police, and what have roles with Wethersfield police and houses near me. Since before they moved into it, people moved into it. The police forms have been influencing people at those locations to roles with them. Criminally foreign influence also with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people on off body dumping spots connected. People on off connected shopping centers and roads and routes and corners of streets. Same people involved with corners of buildings, planting federal evidence as crimes, saying and acting things at locations to keep naive time treatments at interbranch locations exploited, roles, criminally foreign influence uses of broadcasts. CCSU, please give me a response for them. Vaccines. Eric Burgess is one of the ones who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, recorded people from Hartford Courts in New Britain Superior Court and with the military and their family members, people that work for the court and where they live and tied to it. They influence them to roles with predicate acts, with evidences, and with names and with time treatments leading up to the World Trade Center attack and then since it. And then they made them fake passions, emotions, and commit more predicate acts to hide that and pretend to perceive other than it was really recorded. Also has confirmed and demonstrated recorded roles with a whole bunch of people with mine from Wethersfield involved criminally with spots next to Central Connecticut State University through time with that. Lucinda Kolvinskis, Jocelyn Kolvinskis, and they have the kids in their family involved with this. They have the kids of South Civiello. One time they tried to make two fake exceptions of me knowing South Civiello. In other words, they used it criminally, and two times with a there are people involved with the state police and Wethersfield police through time with his neighbors, also involved with that, and with that 2-route highway in conjunctions to it, and where it runs into Hangdog Lane in the heart and the Burlington Turnpike before the heart of Hartford, or where it runs into Hangdog Lane and where Hangdog Lane runs into Route 3. That is also involved with a whole bunch of names, involves stacking predicate acts and illusions and wrongdoing and sequence shifts and fake ties and fake natures of ties between people and each age of their family member. Even fake conversations with themselves and between themselves and relative to where they're using time treatments. Whole bunch of ways East Hartford locations are also involved with this. And so the Bobby Jean also demonstrated, was confirmed, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. What she knows to an extent is at least plausible that she knows that judges and prosecutors are criminally involved with her and with people with Hartford Courts and the Britain Superior Court. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, people involved with the corner with this police chief, Centron, people involved with the corner of Elm Street and Maple Street, Route 3, and Rocky Hill. Same people involved on off Elm Street at a house at the corner of Elm Street and Route 3 in Wethersfield, Oliveri family. A whole bunch of people involved with a Mr. O'Neill, which is his name, Mr. Neville, confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed. He involved some people with the name, he and others involved him with the name Olson on and off Trinity College with predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders. They know my name. I don't even know their name. And I never had a personal conversation with him. He stole my poem. That's the only thing, in other words. It has something to do with the Rick Salem Faglione's confessions regarding him and a Leahy family. People involved with the medical community have been stacking fake things into databases with teachers and teachers that aren't even the teachers of the other kids. It has something to do with the people pretending passions and emotions with teachers that aren't even other kid teachers. And those are the ones involved with sexual circles, with overt criminal enterprises, and with people involved with a whole stack of falsified police reports and their sources, also involved with wire crimes. You know, that's how they keep, you know, instances where the police have to pull people over and then respond. They have all the schools they went to were all criminally like foreign influence before the instances took place. Pays vaccines, prepare. But get them on campus. You understand what I said? Get them on paper now. Make sure, because the principal's in jail. I don't even know if he's still in jail. Where is that? And we didn't even get to his confessions yet. And I didn't even get to what I called for. They put you on hold. Then they say then something. They bring up something like you said something. You didn't even get to speak yet. They start this game where they stack more names and confessions in. They bring up more things. They're playing a game. We didn't even get to the thing yet. There's a whole bunch of people tied to a Rob Rodriguez involved with and people that brought up per Rod Rodriguez demonstrated use of him. They have a whole bunch of ties to Mike Roberts and John Maiano involved with planting evidences with the police chief and with police forms intercities through time and with Sound View, also with people on off town line, on off Two Rod Highway, people involved with this Dillon family, people involved with child defenders on my street, and with coaches of the kids teams. There's a Casper family, and there are other coaches like a Hegenbart who's involved with the confessions and demonstrations of this Maiano family, intercampuses with federal crimes with kids, with evidences, and with identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, little sick fake punks with the mind. Here, get the John Maiano, get on paper, get me the people from the New Britain Superior Court on paper now, and the names of the people that you have tied to you with the spots next to the state capitol. Real fast, John Maiano. Let's go. Get out of the schools if you're in the schools. Get out of the schools. Drop your